How one startup refused investor and achieved massive success. Sahil sat on the edge of a small rented room in Jaipur, staring at the cracked wall with tired eyes. The ceiling fan above his head rattled like it might fall at a moment. His bed was nothing more than a mattress on the floor, and his entire savings were tucked inside a tin box under it. He was 27, and unlike most of his friends who had secure jobs, Sahil was restless, searching for something more than just a paycheck. He wasn't born into wealth. His father worked as a school teacher, earning just enough to feed the family, and his mother snitched clothes for neighbor to make little extra money. Sahil grew up watching his parents stretch every rupee, sacrificing their own needs so their children could study. He respected that deeply, but he couldn't imagine himself living the same cycle of survival. Sometimes inside him screamed for bigger purpose. Sahil was fascinated by business that no one thought about. While most people dreamed of opening cafes, clothing lines, or tech startups, Sahil spent his time observing ordinary people, noticing small problems that were ignored by the world. He believed that hidden inside those overlooked problems lay the seeds of unique business. One summer evening, Sahil was walking back from a long day at a part time job when he saw a group of waste collections putting cart full of discards bottle, broken chemicals and mirrors. Most of it was sharp and dangerous. The collectors' hands were cut, their clothes was torn, and still they smiled faintly as if the pain was became the part of life. Sahil stopped for a moment. Something clicked in his head. That night, lying in his dimly lit room, he whispered to himself, "What if waste glass could be turned into something valuable? Something people would actually buy?" And just like that, the seed of his idea was planted. Unlike typical startups in fashion or food, Sahil wanted to build something extraordinary out of ordinary waste. He spent weeks regarding about recycled products, and one idea kept returning to him, turning discard glasses into handicraft decorative tiles, lamps, and art pieces. Most construction materials were mass produced and dull. What if people could buy unique eco friendly designs for their home? Sahil imagined hotels, cafes, and luxury apartments shining with walls decorated with shimmering tiles made from recycled glass. It would not only reduce waste but also create a market for something entirely new in India. But there was a problem. He had no money, no workshop, no machine. His savings were less than 20,000, barely enough for survival. His father wanted to apply for government jobs like every other graduate do. His mother worried that his strange idea would only bring disappointment. Yet, Sahil's conviction grew stronger every day. One evening, sitting with his best friend Arav on the rooftop, he stared his vision. Imagine walking into a restaurant, Sahil said, his eyes glowing with excitement. Instead of booing white tiles, the walls sparkle with patterns made from crushed colored glass, each piece unique, handmade, and eco friendly. People will love it. Arav laughed at first but then grew quiet. It sounds crazy, bro, but crazy ideas something change the world. That night, Sahil made a promise to himself. He would not wait for investor, not for approval. He would start with whatever he had. The next few months tested everyone's Sahil's patience. He visited junkyards to collect discarded bottles. People laughed at him, asking why a young educated man was dragging broken glass like a rag picker. But Sahil ignored the voices. He washed every piece of glass, learned how to cut, melt, and reshape it using crude methods. His tiny rented room turned into the messy workshop, broken bottles piled up in a corner, and the smell of burning glue filled the air. Neighbors complained, and his landlord threatened to throw him out. Yet, Sahil kept going. Bleeding fingers and sleepless nights became the routine. He created his first prototype, small glass tile with blue green shimmer. To him they looked magical, but when he showed to shopkeeper, most rejected them outright. No one will buy this, one said very much hardly. It's unsafe. Who will put broken glass into their walls? Another scoffed. Rejection cut him deeper than any glass itself, but deep inside, he felt he was onto something. Tempting offers from investor. One day, through a local exhibition of handicrafts, Sahil managed to showcase his glass art. His stall looked modest compared to other, but a group of wealthy businessmen stopped by. They were impressed not by the art itself but by the potential of cheap labor and profit. We like your idea, one investor said casually. Flipping once on Sahil tiles in his hand, we will refund your startup, but you will need to give us 70% ownership. You will just work for. For a moment, Sahil felt tempted. After all, with money, he could buy proper machines, rented workshop, and expand quickly, but something inside him resisted. He remembered his father's words: if you can sell your idea too early, you will never know its true value. With trembling, Sahil refused. Thank you, sir, but I want to build this on my own terms. The investigator laughed. Without us, you will remain a street artist. Think about it. That night, Sahil sat in the darkness, his stomach empty, and his bank balance was nearly zero. Doubt ground at him, and he made a mistake refusing them. But then he looked at him shimmering tile lying on his table. It reflected the light in patterns that no factory could ever replicate. He whispered to himself, this is mine, and I will prove them wrong. At home, things grew tense. His father scolded him for wasting time. His mother cried silently at night, worried about his future. Relatives mocked him during family gatherings. They said, your son collects garbage now, one uncle told. At least get married and settle down, another advised. Every word felt like a stone thrown at his spirit, but instead of breaking, Sahil grew stronger. He realized that success wasn't about just proving himself, it was about proving everyone wrong that who doubted him. Months later, a small eco-friendly cafe in Jaipur decided to give Sahil a chance. The owner loved the idea of unique recycled glass decor. Sahil worked day and night creating customized wall art and lamps for the cafe. When the cafe opened, customers were stunned by the glowing beauty of design. People took pictures, shared them on social media, and within weeks, Sahil started receiving small orders from boutique hotels and restaurants. For the first time, money started flowing in. Not much, but enough to pay rent and buy better goods. He named his ventures Reflections because every glass of peace reflected the light in its own way, just as every struggle reflected the strength in his journey. But success came with storms. Larger competitors began copying his designs. Some even accused him for being unsafe, claiming his products could injure people. Orders slowed down, customer hesitated. Sahil felt the ground slipping beneath his feet again. And then, one night, disaster struck. A small fire broke out his workshop due to faulty wiring. Most of stock burned, and he barely managed to escape with his life. Standing outside, watching flames devour years of hard work, Sahil broke down for the first time. Tears rolled down his cheeks, and his dream turned to ash before his eyes. The next morning, newspaper carried a small headline: Local artist workshop destroyed in fire. For others, it was just a tiny news piece. For Sahil, it felt like end of everything. But sometimes ending are the hidden beginnings. Instead of giving up, Sahil picked up the ashes. Quite literally, among the burnt debris, he noticed how melted glass has formed a strange but beautiful patterns when mixed with fire. It was as if the flames had gifted him a new form of art. He smiled through his tears. If even fire can't destroy this, nothing will. And with that, Sahil decided to rise again, stronger, sharper, and more determined. The fire had reduced Sahil's workshop to ruins. The walls were blackened, the air still smelled of smoke, and the broken glass lay scattered across the floor like a cruel reminder of failure. For the 3 days, Sahil couldn't bring himself to step inside. He stayed at home, staring blankly at the ceiling, wondering if the universe was telling him to give up. His parents were firm this time. "This is enough," his father said. His voice was heavy with anger. "You wasted years. The fire is a sign. Stop chasing this foolish dream. Get a stable job." His mother, though softer, held the same concern. "Son, we can't watch you suffer anymore. You are our son, not a burden to carry broken bottles forever." Sahil listened in silence. His heart felt like it was cracking into pieces, but deep inside, another voice spoke louder. The fire had destroyed his shock, but it has also shown him something remarkable. The melted glass patterns that no ordinary machine could ever replicate. Beauty born out of destruction. That night, Sahil returned to ruins of his workshop alone. He picked up a melted piece of glass. Holding it under the moonlight, it glowed in shades of blue, green, and gold, almost like a piece of art created by nature itself. He whispered to himself, "The fire didn't end me. It gave me the new beginning." With no money to rebuild, Sahil did something unthinkable. He began collecting the melted glass repairs from the fire, shaping them into the small art pieces, coasters, table decor, and jewelry. Each piece told a story of survival. He branded the collection as "Born from Fire." At first, he doubted anyone would buy them, but when he posted pictures online, the response was overwhelming. People weren't just buying glasses pieces, they were buying resilience, hope, and beauty born from destruction. A woman messaged him, "Your work inspires me. I am a cancer survivor, and your Born from Fire piece now sits on my desk as reminded of my journey." That message made Sahil cry. For the first time, he realized his business wasn't only about decor. It was about emotions, about giving people a piece of strength they could hold. As order grew, so did the challenges. Sahil still worked in a half-burnt workshop with no proper equipment. He melted glass in old stoves, cut pieces by hand, and packaged them himself. His hand bore scars, but his heart burned with determination. He approached banks for small loans, but most officers laughed. "You want money to make art from garbage? Who will buy that?" Friends advised him to take help from investor again. One evening, arranged a meeting with a well-known businessman in Delhi. The businessman listened quietly as Sahil explained his vision. Then he leaned back, smiled coldly, and said, "You are creative, but you lack resources. Sell me your idea, I will give you 50 lakh rupees. You step aside, and my team will handle the rest." The offer could change his life overnight, but Sahil remembered his promise. He shook his head slowly. "No, sir, Reflections is not for sale." The businessman chucked. "Then good luck, young man. Passion doesn't pay bills." Walking out of the office, Sahil felt both proud and scared. The refusal gave him strength, but the reality of empty wallet kept haunting him. One evening, while delivering a small order of coasters to a boutique store, Sahil bumped into the travel blogger from Italy named Sofia. She was fascinated by the products and asked him for the story. Sahil explained his journey, the fire, and the vision. Sophia was moved. She bought a few pieces and shared them on her Instagram, which had thousands of followers. Within days, Sahil's inbox was flooded with inquiries from Europe. Some boutiques wanted to stock his Born from Fire collection. For the first time. Reflection crossed Indian borders. But international orders meant bigger responsibilities, better packaging, export licensing, shipping logistic. Sahil had no idea from where to start. He spent sleepless nights reading government website, filling out forms and running from one office to another. Many times he thought of quitting, but each time he looked at a glowing glass piece, he felt to shrug off courage. Despite the small success, Sahil's personal life was falling apart. His friend drifted away, unable to understand his obsession. Relatives stopped inviting his family to function, whispering that Sahil was failure, playing with trash. One night, his father confronted him harshly. You are selfish. Do you even care how your mother cries every night? We gave you everything, and now you give us the shame in return. Those words pierced Sahil like a dagger. He sat alone on a rooftop that night, staring at the stars, tears rolling down his cheeks. For a moment, he considered giving up, not because of his weak, because of he couldn't bear to see his parents suffer for his dream. But then, Arav, his old friend, visited him. He brought food and sat beside him quietly and said, Sahil, the world mocks you now because you can't see what you are building. But remember, every empire looks like madness in beginning. Those words reignited Sahil's fire. He decided he wouldn't stop until Reflections became a name his parents could say with pride. Slowly, Reflections began to attract attention. Eco-friendly brands invited Sahil to exhibition, architects started ordering custom tiles, and cafes wanted a unique lamps. Each project was small, but together they built momentum. Sahil hired two young workers from a local slum, boys who collected scrap to survive. He trained them to cut and polish glass, paying them fairly. Their joy reminded him why he started his journey, not just to build a business but to build lives. He saved enough to rent to a new workshop, nothing fancy but with a proper space and ventilation. For the first time, Reflection had a roof that didn't leak and walls didn't smell of smoke. But success brought new challenges. Competitor tried to undercut his prices, calling him just another handicraft seller. Customer delivered faster delivery, which was difficult with handicraft products. And once again, investor knocked at his door, this time offering crores to scale Reflections globally. Sahil refuses again. His principle was clear: I will take help, but I will never sell my soul. Just when things seemed to be moving forward, a major setback arrived. A hotel chain placed a huge order for customized glass panels. Sahil invested all his saving into raw materials, hired temporary workers, and worked day and night to meet the deadline. But at the last moment, the chain cancelled the order due to budget changes. Sahil was left with unsold stock worth lakhs. His bank balance crashed, debts piled up, and workers left. For weeks, he was paralyzed with despair. Every morning, he woke up with dread, wondering if Reflection had finally reached its end. And then, in this darkest hour, he received an email from Sofia, the travel blogger who first supported him. She wrote, I am opening an art gallery in Milan and I want Reflections to be part of you. You can send me your best collection. Sahil read the email again and again, tears filling his eyes. Just when the world had shut his doors, Faith opened a window. With borrowed money and shared determination, Sahil created a new collection called Fragments of Light. Each piece told a story of brokenness turned into beauty. He shipped them into Milan, praying they would arrive safely. Months later, picture from gallery flooded in his inbox. Visitors stood memorized before his creation. Italian newspaper wrote up about Indian artists turning waste into wonder. Orders from Europe multiplied. For the first time, Reflection not just surviving, it was thriving internationally. Sahil could finally pay his debt, hire back his workers, and most importantly, show his parents that his dream had value. When his father held a newspaper article featuring Reflection, his stern face softened. Maybe you were right, he whispered. His mother hugged him, tears of pride shining in her eyes. Sahil realized Reflection could be more than just a decor. It could be a movement spreading the message that brokenness, whether in glass or in life, could be reshaped into beauty. He began conducting workshops in schools, teaching children about recycling and creative. He collaborated with NGOs to employ women from underprivileged backgrounds, giving them income and dignity. Reflection wasn't just a business anymore, it was an revolution. But as his name grew, so did the challenges grew. Competitors filed false cases accusing him of unsafe practices. Corrupt offices demanded bribes to clear export shipment, and once again, a powerful investor offered him millions on one condition: step aside, let us make Reflection a corporate giant. Sahil stood tall, his voice firm. Reflection was born from fire, built by scars, and powered by people who believed when no one else did. I will never hand it over to someone who sees only profit. The investor smirked. Then don't cry when the world swallows you alive. Sahil smiled faintly. Let the world try. The glow of success felt sweeter, but Sahil soon realized that the higher he climbed, the stronger the winds against him became. Reflection was no longer an obscure startup, it was becoming a recognized name in eco-friendly designs. With recognition came competitors, envy, and enemies who wanted to tear him down. One crisp morning, Sahil arrived at his workshop to find thick brown envelope waiting for him. Inside was a legal notice from a powerful competitor, a large construction material company. The letter accused Reflection of endangering public safety by selling product from glass. The accusation was very much hard. Sahil's products were carefully polished, tested, and safer than many industrial tiles. But the lawsuit wasn't about safety, it was about intimidation. The lawyer friend explained they wanted to drag you into the endless legal battles until you collapse under financial pressure. It's a tactic. The thought shook Sahil. Court fees, lawyer charges, at the stretch of fighting a giant corporation could destroy everything he had built. For nights, he couldn't sleep, his chest tight with anxiety. His parents begged him to settle, to pay whatever bribe, to compromise necessary. But Sahil was not that who will give up. If I back down now, Reflection will lose its soul. He decided to fight. He gathered data, clarification, and expert testimonials to prove the safety of his products. His workers stood with him, ready to testify how much care went into every piece. The battle dragged for months. There were days when Sahil left the courtroom feeling crushed, the giant company lawyer sprinkling at him as though he was an insect. But just when he thought he could go on, an unexpected ally appeared. During one court hearing, a young architect named Miria approached Sahil. She had begun quietly following his work for months and had even used reflection tiles in one of her projects. I believe in what you are doing, she said firmly. If you allow me, I will testify on your behalf. I will prove that your product aren't just safe, but it's a revolutionary. True to a world. Mira presented her designs in court, showcasing how reflection product had been safely used in multiple architect products. Her confidence, professionalism, and respect in the industry treated the case. The court dismissed the accusation and Sahil walked out a free man. The construction giant had lost in battle. For the first time in weeks, Sahil smiled genuinely. He shook Mira's hand with gratitude. You didn't just save reflection, you saved my belief in people. Mira smiled back. Sometimes the world needs proof that broken things you can shine. You have given us the proof, Sahil. Their paths didn't end there. Mira became a close collaborator, pushing Sahil to expand reflections into architectural designs, not just a decor. Just as Sahil began to dream bigger, life threw another brutal twist. One of his early workers, Ramesh, whom Sahil had trained and trusted, suddenly left the company. Weeks later, Sahil discovered that Ramesh had started his own business using the same concept, directly competing with Reflections. The betrayal hit Sahil harder than any lawsuit. This was man he had treated like family, someone whose children he had helped to send to school. To see him steal designs and approach the same client was stab in the back. His team urged him to use, but Sahil shook his head. No, if reflection is truly unique, no one can copy its soul. Still, the pain lingered. For nights, Sahil replayed every conversation, wondering where he had gone wrong. But eventually, he realized something important. Betrayal was proof that his idea had value. People only steal what it's worth stealing. Instead of downing in anger, Sahil poured his energy into innovation. He launched a new collection, Enchaos of Earth, title of flames, inspiring by nature landscape, blending metal glasses with recycled chemicals. The designs were so original that no copycat would match them. Meanwhile, orders from Europe continued to grow. With Mira's help, Reflection entered the architectural market, supplying custom panels to boutique hotels in Spain, Italy, and Germany. Architects loved the uniqueness and the interior designs admired with sustainability angle. But expanding abroad wasn't easy. Shipping costs, customer delays, and cultural difference constantly tested Sahil's patience. Many nights he found himself awake at 6 a.m., managing emails and calls from different time zones. And then came the hardest part, funding. To keep up with international demand, Reflection needed bigger clients, advance cutting money, and a large team. Sahil saving weren't enough. Once again, investor appeared like a vulture crying in a prey. This time, they weren't just offering money, they were offering fame. One multinational group proposed, we will invest 5 million. In return, you will rebrand Reflection under our umbrella and scale it globally. You will be our creative head, but the company will be ours. For a moment, Sahil was tempted. The thought of Reflection becoming a global brand was intoxicating. But when he imagined losing control, watching strangers stripe away his heart of dream of profit, his resolve hardened. He replied firmly, Reflection was born without investor. It will grow without investor also. The executive was very much stressed. Your stubbornness will cost you everything, Sahil. But Sahil had heard those words before. While Reflection grew, Sahil's personal life was very much bad. He barely saw his family. He had no time for his friends Proposals came and went, rejected because Sahil has no stability. His parent worried about his loneliness, but Sahil buried himself in work. Sometime late at night, he wondered if he was making a mistake, choosing glass over relationship, success over love. But then he would walk into his workshop, see the glow of finished pieces under the light, and remember why he started. Still, the emptiness was very much craving at him. Arav, his childhood friend, noticed in one evening, "Bro, you have built something incredible, but don't forget you are a human too. Reflections may shine, but don't let your soul fade." Those words stayed with Sahil. A major setback. Just when everything seemed to balance, disaster struck again. A shipment of reflection tiles to Germany arrived damaged due to mishandling. The client cancelled the deal, leaving Sahil with massive losses. Worse, negative reviews began spreading online. Overnight, reflection reputation was at risk. Orders slowed, workers feared losing their jobs. Sahil himself fell into a spiral of self-doubt. He locked himself in the office for days, staring at bills piling up. For the first time, he would wondered that investors were right. Maybe he couldn't survive without them. But then one morning, he walked into workshop and saw his workers was still waiting, still believing they have families to feed, children to send to school, and they trusted him. Their faith lit up a fire in him stronger than ever. He stood before them and said, "We will survive fire, we will survive betrayal, we will also survive this too. Reflection isn't just mine's, it's ours." The comeback. Sahil decided to take full control of shipping process. He partnered directly with logistic companies, personally inspected packaging, and ensured every piece was tested before leaving the workshop. Slowly, damage order became rare, and clients began to trusting him again. To rebuild reputation, he launched an online campaign, Broken Yet Beautiful. He shared not just products but stories of resilience, workers who had risen from poverty, women who found dignity through reflection, and his own journey of fighting against odds. The campaign went viral. People connected not only with the art but with the heart behind it. Reflection wasn't just selling glasses, it was selling hope. The applause in Singapore echoed in Sahil's heart long after they returned home. For the first time in years, he felt proud, not because of fame, just because of the world finally saw the reflections as more than a business, it was a movement. Opportunity poured in luxury hotels in Dubai, partnership from Japan, even from government projects. Reflection was no longer a small workshop. It was a global name. Yet with growth came the same haunting question, can we grow this big without losing our soul? When a government back-end contract worth crores came his way, Sahil hope soared, but hidden his fine print was demanded outside investor. He stayed awake for nights, torn between the spread or soul. At last, he told his team, if reflection bows to investor, it stopped being reflection. It rather grew slow than sell our freedom. The team, through nervous, stood by him. Months later, tragedy hit. One of Reflection's factory caught fire, millions were lost, and bankruptcy loomed. Standing outside the runs, Sahil almost broke. For the first time, he asked himself, was I wrong to reject investor? But Mira's words steadied him. Fire can burn walls, but not your dreams. You taught us that. Instead hiding, Sahil shared the story publicly. He launched a campaign. Reflection was born from broken glass. Today we are broken again. Help us rise. The response was overwhelming. Clients, universities, and architects railed behind him. Slowly, the company rebuilt itself brick by brick. The comeback story turned Sahil into an international symbol of resilience. Newspaper called him the Phoenix entrepreneur. Documentaries showed Reflection as a proof that a startup could survive and grow without investor. Later flooded in young entrepreneurs. You proved you don't need investor. You showed us purpose in bigger than profit. For Sahil, this was victory, not just selling glass but igniting belief. As reflection stabilized, Sahil began repairing his personal life. He spent evening with his parents, laughed again with Arav, and found quiet companionship with Veera. What had started a collaboration slowly grew into something deeper. For the first time in a year, Sahil dared to dream beyond reflection, not instead of it, but alongside it. Years later, a multinational company offered him 100 millions of reflection. They promised global dominance, factories in 20 countries, billions in revenue. For a moment, Sahil imagined it. But then he remembered his first skin. The tiny glowing surface is more than the highly big giant where reflection was born. He smiled with replied, reflection was never about domination, it was about dignity for people, for waste, for broken things. I am not selling that, not now, not ever. The executive thought he was insane, but Sahil knew he had chosen correctly. Over time, reflection became a symbol taught in universities and cherished by architects worldwide. More than a company, it became a lesson. The resilience and purpose could outlast all over anything well. One evening, Sahil walked through the factory floor, watching a young trainee melt glass for the first time. The boy's eye shone with the same aware that once a burned in his own. In that moment, Sahil knew reflection no longer belonged to him alone, it belonged to everyone who had ever been broken and everyone who dared to rise again. When the world spoke of Sahil, they didn't call him just an entrepreneur, they called him a fighter, a dreamer, and a storyteller of resilience. And whatever he was asked, whatever kept him going, his answer was always the same. Broken glass taught me one thing: shattered pieces aren't the end, they are just the beginning.